Could another Sphinx have been found? What about an ancient temple hiding in plain sight? Should we just pass things off as a natural formation without any actual archaeological proof? Welcome to Peculiar Occurrences. I'm your host, Lilith Nova. On the rocky mountain face of the Makran coastline of Southern Balochistan in Pakistan is an archaeological novel that has gone unnoticed and unexplored for centuries. The Balochistan Sphinx, as it is popularly called, came into the public eye only after the Makran Coastal Highway opened in 2004. The Balochistan Sphinx is usually passed off by journalists as a natural formation, although no archaeological survey has seemed to be conducted on this site. By just observing not just the Sphinx itself, but the surrounding area with just the human eye, it makes it very hard to believe that this is a natural formation. The area looks like it's definitely been touched by the hands of stone workers, with cuts in the rocks of an archaeological complex. If you look at the mound on top of the cliff, it seems to actually be showing the features of a sphinx. It seems to have a well-defined jawline and clearly discernible facial features such as eyes, nose, and a mouth, which are placed in seemingly perfect proportion to each other. The Sphinx also appears to have a headdress very similar to the Nemes headdress of the Egyptian Sphinx. The Nemes headdress is a striped head cloth that covers the crown, the back of the head, and down the neck. It has two long flaps that lay down behind the ears and in front of the shoulders. And the ear flaps can be easily discerned on the Balochistan Sphinx. The Sphinx also has a horizontal groove across its forehead, which is similar to the headband that holds the Nemes headdress in place on the pharaoh's head, or in this case, the Sphinx's head. One can easily make out reclining forelegs of the Sphinx. It is just very hard to believe that nature itself could have carved out of stone something that looks so similar to such a popular, well-known mythical animal as the Sphinx, to such an astonishing degree. It does seem to resemble the Egyptian Sphinx. Interesting enough, in close proximity to the Balochistan Sphinx is another very interesting structure. And from a distance, it looks very similar to a Hindu temple, like those of South India, with an entrance hall and a temple spire. The top part of the temple spire seems to be missing. The Sphinx is reclined in front of the temple, acting as the protector of a sacred site. In ancient sacred architecture, the Sphinx actually played a protective role, and was usually placed in a pair on either side of a temple's entrance. This goes for temples, tombs, sacred monuments. In ancient Egypt, the Sphinx had the body of a lion, but its head could be human, ram, falcon, or jackal. The Great Sphinx of Giza, for example, acts as guardian to the Great Pyramid complex. In Greece, the Sphinx tended to have the head of a woman and wings of an eagle, with the body of a lioness, and according to some, the tail of a serpent. The colossal statue of the Sphinx of Naxos stood on a towering column at the sacred oracle of Delphi, acting as a protector of the site. In India art and sculpture, the Sphinx is known to have its primary positioned near the temple gateway, acting as a guardian of the sanctuary. However, sphinxes were actually carved all over the premises, including the entrance, the halls, and near the center. Sphinxes are also featured in Buddhist architecture of Southeast Asia. They are depicted in a cat-like form, in a crouching position. They wear a tapering crown and ornamental ear flaps, and have feathered wings attached to their front limbs. So, throughout the ancient world, the Sphinx acted as a protector of ancient places. Perhaps not coincidentally, the Sphinx of Balochistan also seems to be guarding an ancient temple, or temple-like structure. This suggests that the site was laid out in accordance with the principles of sacred architecture. And a closer look at the Balochistan Sphinx temple reveals clear evidence of pillars carved on a boundary wall. The temple entrance is visible behind a large pile-up of sediment and termite mounds, and an elevated sculpted structure to the left of the entrance could have been a shrine. Overall, there can be no doubt that this is a giant, man-made, stone-cut monument of great antiquity. The Balochistan temple shows clear signs of being a man-made temple. Interestingly enough, there seems to be two monumental sculptures carved on the face side of the Sphinx temple, right above the entrance on either side. The carvings are heavily eroded, making their identification very difficult. But some say they look as if they could be depictions of the sons of Shiva, meaning that this temple complex might have been dedicated to Shiva. While the identification stage of these sculptures are speculative at the moment, the presence of sculpted figures is just more evidence that this could be a man-made structure. The structure of the Sphinx temple suggests that it may actually be a Gwadar, i.e., the entrance tower of a temple. Like this Sphinx temple, Gwadariums are usually flat-topped, with a row of ornaments, stone or metal pots, arranged on top. From careful study of the flat-topped Sphinx temple, one can discern a number of spikes on the top, which could be a row of these ornaments, covered in sediment termite mounds, covered in rock. Gwadariums are attached to the boundary wall of a temple. Gwadariums also feature giant sculpted figures at the entrance. These are known as door guardians, and as we've already mentioned, this temple seems to have them. The ones that are placed just above the temple doors. This temple actually looks like it could have 4 entrances that lead to a courtyard, where the main shrine of the temple complex would have been built. This part, unfortunately, cannot be seen in photographs. This is just speculation. The inside of this structure would have to actually be explored to tell. But this kind of temple architecture is quite common in South Indian temples. And the elevated platform in which the temple and the Sphinx sit seem to have elaborate carvings, pillars, designs across it. Some may very well even be doors that lead to chambers underneath the Sphinx. It is believed by many, including mainstream Egyptologist Mark Lanier, that there could be chambers and passages underneath the Great Sphinx of Gaza as well. It is also interesting that the Balochistan Sphinx and temple seems to be elevated on a platform much like the Sphinx of Gaza and the Great Pyramids, which sit on an elevated plateau looking over the city of Cairo. Another peculiar feature of this site is seemingly a series of steps that lead up the platform. The steps appear to be evenly spaced and of uniform height, The entire site gives the impression of a grand rock cut archaeological complex, which has eroded over time with elements and weathering and layers of sediment, masking the more intricate details of the sculptures. It is thought this site may be from 3000 BCE or earlier. It's possible that this site could have been built in phases, and parts of it are even older, while others are comparatively recent. If any readable inscriptions can be found at the site, then it may be possible to actually date it. In the absence of any readable inscriptions, scientists will have to rely on datable artifacts, human remains, archaeological styles, geological erosion, patterns, and other clues. Undoubtedly, there may be a virtual treasure trove waiting to be found at this site. Maybe even clues to how sites like this could have been built in the 3rd century without any sort of technological boom in that era. Unfortunately, these magnificent monuments, whose origins go back to unknown antiquities, continue to languish in isolation, thanks to the appalling level of apathy towards them. It appears that little effort has been made to acknowledge or restore them, and the journalists routinely pass this off as natural formations. The situation can only be salvaged if international attention is drawn to these subjects, and only if teams of archaeologists and enthusiasts will go and visit and study these magnificent sites, research, restore, and promote them. The importance of these ancient sites of the Makran coast can hardly be overstated. They could provide us with important clues to humanity's mysterious and peculiar past. So what do you think about this peculiar occurrence? Could this really be a temple and a sphinx, or are our eyes just playing tricks on us? Let me know down below. And while you're down there, check out my description box for your peculiar occurrence merch. Don't forget to like this video, share it out to all your good friends, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that bell so you know when I upload. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled for all things peculiar. Do 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 do.
Are you listening? Damn.